Welcome to TMZ Live. So the trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur is underway. And there is something very interesting going on here because Keffe D, who is on trial not for shooting and killing Tupac Shakur, but for orchestrating it.
Right, for being the mastermind who, according to police, actually bought the gun, put the gun in the hands of the man who did pull the trigger that night in Vegas 30 years ago. Now, as you mentioned, you know, Tupac was in the car, but in the passenger seat. The person who was driving the car was Suge Knight, head of Death Row Records.
And, you know, a lot of the people in this case now have died. And
including the man who allegedly pulled the trigger.
That's right. But the one person who knows a lot is Suge Knight.
Is Suge.
And Suge, up to this point, has said, I ain't talking. I'm not talking. I am not talking. But Suge at least is talking to us.
Right.
Because he is on the phone with us right now.
And I'm imagining he is going to be watching what happens in this trial very closely. And he is joining us now. Suge Knight, welcome back to TMZ Live.
What's up with y'all, man?
So listen, and number one, we really appreciate you calling. We should let people know that you are incarcerated now, so you may hear a prison voice
right.
Kind of monitoring.
From time to time.
But look, what do you make of
Harvey, I think everybody know I'm in the penitentiary.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason the graphic that we're putting up shows you in his prison.
It's a fair point, Suge.
But just in case, Suge, we just want everyone to know.
It's a fair point.
Y'all always show pictures of me in prison. Wow.
Okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Orange is not your color necessarily. I got it.
No, it's not.
Okay.
So first thing I want to say is that, you know, it's always a pleasure talking to you guys. But the thing is that Tupac has so much influence. And I'm always happy to have so many people who love him. You know, my son Legend, him and his friends, that's their favorite rapper. And my son Legend now, he's a basketball player, but he want to be an artist and rapper because of Tupac.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So when I spoke with his mother, by the way, is one of the greatest mothers around. Tori does a great job with my son. She said that's all he want to do is be a rapper. And my granddaughter, sister, even says she loves him. So that says a lot. That makes me happy, you know?
Yeah, no doubt Tupac's influence is immense. So knowing that and knowing that your son idolizes him, I would think that you're very interested in what happens in this trial.
Well, I'm interested in that it should really be a teaching moment. We've been through so much over the years, right? And not just, I mean, for his hip-hop, for a black man, we go through a lot. And society goes through a lot, in society, period. And we can't learn from it and learn something about it and teach something, we're wasting our time. So I definitely always down for trying to make everybody get a better view of life to help.
So, you know, the interesting thing about this case is that, you know, what the prosecution is saying is the best witness for them is Keffe D, because he essentially confessed that he wrote a book. He's talked about this on podcasts. He's now kind of moonwalking back here and saying, well, I had a ghostwriter in the book. What do you make of that?
He's full of I look at it like this. It's not about picking on Keffe D, but at the same time, most of his situations, I know he did it to himself. I knew his lawyer. His lawyer was a friend of mine, and I knew about him having immunity and doing that deal a long time ago. But the crazy thing about it, for 30 years or so or more, it cost me my freedom, it cost me money, it cost me business deals. I paid a lot for the fact that from day one, even though I got a bullet an inch into my skull, they always says I'm the one who had Tupac killed, which is far from the truth. Every person who participated in that, they never brung up. But I believe in giving everybody the opportunity. I have a book coming out called Your Pain Is My Joy. It was coming out this month. When I found out that he wasn't been going to trial, I said, well, I'm not going to put the book out. I'll put it out in September because it'll be too much, you know, for them to deal with. He deserves a fair shake. But I think what he should do, he already told everything. He already told on himself. He should deal with a situation where make it best for everybody. Put it in a situation where there's a lot of people who participated and a lot of people who they don't talk about. And I'm not here to say they should get punished because I don't believe in that. I don't believe in the revenge. I believe that my kindness comes from God. My strength comes from God. So I'm not on that page and saying they need to get punished, but it's sort of sad that every person has all dropped everything on Keefe D. When you look at it, he got immunity, so they can never charge him again. But then he was in bed and dealing with a guy that knew if he do a book, he was on one podcast 7 times, another podcast 5 times, and he did a book.
So, Suge,
that destroyed his immunity.
Suge, I know you've told us over the years that you're not snitching, you're not naming any names, but it does sound like you were saying there are other people involved.
You said
beyond Keefe D.
many others.
And even though Keefe D is the guy standing trial, that there are many others involved?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say these guys' names, but everybody knows. One thing you got to realize, even in my book, that's why I pushed it back. It tells the details of certain things, but it's still no names involved. If that's all you got to look around and see the people, even people who got the fake death row. They've been talking and talking and talking and talking. All of a sudden, it get close to this situation with Keefe D, everybody's quiet. One thing I also want to say is that there was a girl I knew back in the day named SKG. She was black, Asian, about 5'6", 115 pounds. Now somebody else said they SKG. And they deal with a person that deals with Keefe D. They deal with a person who hated Tupac. All these people were saying the most horrible things about Tupac that you possibly can say about a man. And it was all lies. Now they want to act like they're going to report what's going on. But these guys is in Keefe D's camp who tried to bail him out and help him. I don't look for bad on him, but I don't look for good on him. It is what it is. But at the same time, I think it's an opportunity for him to clear the board.
Are you saying...
He know the truth.
Are you saying that there's someone who either hired or sent Keefe D on this mission to kill Tupac?
You know, one of the things you got to realize, this was an assassination. It wasn't over no chain. It wasn't over no colors. This was assassination. And they can do one who assassinated Kennedy and everybody can talk about it. But when it comes to Tupac, nobody really wants the truth because the fact that the truth would have set me free. The truth wouldn't have caused them, the same people who allowed them to lie on me, it's the same people. You got to remember one thing, Harvey.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
What I like about you, Harvey, we got a lot in common. You started TMZ, you are TMZ. I have seen people over the years say, you know what? I'm going to start my own TMZ. You know what? I'm going to do some on my own. And they fail, and they fail, and they fail. That's like what people say about Death Row. Well, I'm going to start my own Death Row. I'm going to be Death Row. And they fail, and they fail, and they fail. That's why I with you, because we got a lot in common. But this is the thing. When it's all said and done, this really, all this stuff, constantly destroying hip-hop. Hip-hop is one of the most influenced art that you can think of. And even today, you got guys still paying for stuff that they have no reason to get a fair shake. Shots goes out to Lil Durk. Shot goes out to the other little young guy who's real, Pooh Shiesty. even NBA guy. It's on us to lay our truth down to help the people behind us. We so caught up in look at me, look at me, look at me. We got to figure out how to fix this. Only way we can fix this is by putting everything on the table.
So, Suge, I have talked to you. I have talked to you over the years about this, and there's something I don't understand, because you just said a few minutes ago that you are not into revenge. That's why you're not going to talk. But Tupac was a close friend of yours, and isn't there a difference between revenge and justice? That you said earlier that Keefe D is full of and that you were kind of scoffing at him. So do you feel like there should be, I guess, what I call justice in the system where he's convicted and maybe others come forward and are convicted as well? Or do you think they should all be shut down?
Well, I think it's no justice from a man come from the inner cities in the courts. I think it's all revenge. So we never get justice. So when you really look at it,
You have 60 seconds remaining.
you just had it on your show, a white woman stabs a black man to death and kills him, and they get 3 or 4 years. People had guns, and they had tests to prove they was trying to kill me. It was a hit, and someone dies, and look how much time I got.
It seems like Suge was watching yesterday. He made the reference to Courtney Clenny
Yeah.
getting out in less than 2 years.
Well, you heard they said 60 seconds left, and they mean business in the penitentiary. So we have lost Suge, but I think he gave us his view of.
I really want to hear from him once Keefe D takes the stand and says whatever he's going to say. Because it sounds like what Suge really wants is for Keefe D to name some of those names of the other people.
Sounded like it to me. I want to read his book.
Yeah.
Coming up.
President Trump's secret flight out of Turkey last month to the UK. The way it appeared was that he had gotten on board Air Force One.
The old one.
He was not on that plane.
Oh.
And the reason that they did this, according to the report, is there was a very serious assassination attempt that was thwarted, I guess, by the Secret Service that the Iranians were going to pull off.
Be right back.
Well, an absolute bombshell report from the Washington Post about President Trump's secret flight out of Turkey last month to the UK. We thought at the time, the way it appeared was that he had gotten on board Air Force One.
The old one.
The old one, the blue and white plane, not the one gifted by the Qataris, and flew to the UK. Now, what the Washington Post revealed is he was not on that plane. In fact, he got on board, you see him walking on, and then they secretly put him onto a catering truck, and that catering truck took him to another jet, which you see a little bit of in the background there, and that jet is the one he flew on.
So
the reason that they did this, according to the report, is there was a very serious assassination attempt that was thwarted, I guess, by the Secret Service that the Iranians were going to pull off.
Well, thwarted, but maybe not thwarted, because the idea was Air Force One was going to be a target. And Donald Trump averted that by getting on another plane. But there were people on the old Air Force One who didn't know about this threat, and still they took off. They flew to London. It included the press pool, about 13 people, a small group of White House staff and military personnel who were unaware, and this plane took off where everybody thought Trump was still on that airplane. So you would think the threat was active.
Right. But none of the people on that plane had any idea about this until this story came out. So how do they feel now about essentially being used as, targeted? They were the decoy.
The decoys.
And clearly their lives were in some level of danger. One of the reporters who was on board Air Force One that day is Reuters reporter Graham Slattery. And Graham is joining us right now to discuss this. Graham, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thanks for having me.
So I just want to know your reaction when you read this Washington Post story and you realized you were on this airplane. I'm assuming you didn't know a lot of this until last night when you read it.
I mean, well, yeah, we sort of knew something was up because there were just a lot of weird things happening that day. I mean, I think the first thing was just really surprised because they were really pretty. We saw him get on the plane, we saw him get off. So the subterfuge was pretty intense. And then, of course, you do have the question about. I mean, obviously, when you're a decoy in a potentially fatal situation, that brings up a whole range of emotions or questions, and then finally, that the White House kept up this fiction for a number of weeks, and only kind of never really has quite admitted to it. It makes it makes the relationship between the journalists and the White House just it's not good for that relationship, obviously.
So you're saying that you saw the president. Did you see him get in the catering truck that day? You knew when Air Force One took off that he was not on board?
No, sorry. So we saw him get onto the old Air Force One, which was the plane we were flying on. What we didn't see was him sneak into the catering truck, which took him out.
Do you have any idea how he got back on that plane when it landed in London?
UK? No, that's one part of this that remains a total mystery. The White House staff, I should say, was asking us to close our blinds, saying it was a Secret Service request. The truth is that the journalists, in particular the photographers, we weren't very happy with this request. It wasn't kind of clearly explained, and not all the windows were ultimately closed because we were doing our job. But even so, we couldn't see anything because it was sort of we don't know precisely how he got back on the plane, but if it was anything as sneaky as the way he got off, there wouldn't be much to see anyways.
How do you feel? How do you feel knowing that you were a decoy in harm's way because the Iranians probably thought President Trump was on that plane?
Being a journalist, particularly at Reuters, has a certain degree of risk. I was a foreign correspondent for a number of years. You don't necessarily expect that the risky moments are going to be when you're on the White House beat. That's kind of that was pretty ironic to me. And the truth is, something similar happened in the Clinton administration, but the journalists were briefed beforehand, and obviously you accept a certain amount of risk when you're doing any job. I think that the issue. What I think about is sort of the lack of transparency. For instance, the White House arguably could have simply told journalists off the record or on some sort of embargo, which is what's happened in the past.
Hey, Graham, who else besides the journalists? Who are the White House staffers who are on board when you guys?
Well, that's something that I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of, but it remains a mystery. In part. In part, there's just not that much visibility on the plane itself. So if you don't see somebody come through the press cabin, you don't really know precisely who's on board. We know that Defense Secretary Hegseth was on the other plane, but other than that, there's a lot we don't know.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Marco Rubio was on that trip, so if he wasn't on the plane with, the Wall Street Journal is saying that Rubio was on the plane with the press corps. So that's also very interesting.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, I am stunned because we've spoken to other reporters who have kind of had your attitude, because I thought you guys would be really upset that maybe they could have faked a mechanical problem so you didn't take off. But your reaction is surprising to me, because I would have thought, boy, if I were that decoy, with a serious threat that somebody would blow up that airplane, I would be really upset, but I'm not hearing it in your voice.
Well, I want to minimize that. It's definitely not. I think as a journalist, the thing that I'm most that is most upsetting is again the lack of transparency and just the inaccuracies sort of the fictions that were created around this. Obviously, being treated as a decoy isn't great. But again, it's for me, just because of the nature of the job, anytime when you have just arguably a lie being spun to you, that's kind of
Yeah.
You just
Issue 1A,
embodied everything by
you
saying
did.
being a decoy is not great.
Right, you did. I mean, Graham, I just to that point, I'm wondering how, if you now look back at this joke that the president made talking on Air Force One after all of this, where he said to a reporter, "There are serious threats all the time, but if I go, you go, right? Perhaps someday you want to change professions."
Yeah, that was me. That was actually me that asked that question.
Oh, really?
And so he said that was you he was speaking to directly. I wasn't sure because they never showed that part of it.
But you could go and he wouldn't. Is the reality.
Right, as it turns out,
yeah.
he wouldn't go because he wasn't on the plane.
Yeah, I mean that's part of that's sort of part of the whole being spun the deception issue. It's as journalists, particularly at like an international company like Reuters, so many colleagues that have gone through such incredible risk. Many that have died. Like if you've been abroad, you've probably been in tense situations yourself. And so I don't want to be overwrought about frankly the DC jobs. Because I just know so many colleagues that are going through such serious risk that not that this wasn't serious. It's.
I guess the difference is, Graham, those colleagues you're talking about, and that you're right, they are in those situations, but they know that they're in those situations. You guys had no idea that day, or at least they certainly, as you said, weren't transparent with you.
Right. I think that's actually, and I think that we're sort of getting to the same position in some respects because, as a journalist, you're willing to take risks, but you expect to know about them.
Right.
You would think.
Right.
We're glad you're safe, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks very much.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Graham.
Coming up.
How high was this threat?
I don't think the threat could get much higher. There had to be some concrete, hard intel about an inbound threat, potentially with some sort of missile or rocket-fired device that had the capability of taking down the plane to take them off of it.
Be right back.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Donnell Rawlings took TMZ DC on a city tour.
You know what the irony of this is? A black man takes a white person to the White House.
It's TMZ.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. We just spoke to Graham Slattery, one of the reporters who was on Air Force One the day that the president secretly got off and flew on a different jet back to the UK, meanwhile leaving all the reporters and some White House staffers on Air Force One amid clearly a very serious assassination attempt organized by the Iranians, according to the administration. So, and the Washington Post report. But this has happened before, this sort of thing. It happened back in the early 90s with President Clinton. And there seems to be some differences, though, between what happened with Clinton and what happened this time. But again, there were people left on Air Force One when they got President Clinton off.
But there is a difference. And we have the man who was actually protecting President Clinton, actually protected other presidents as well in the Secret Service. Rich Staropoli is joining us right now. Rich, welcome to TMZ Live.
Appreciate it, Harvey. Always good to see you. And you are correct. I was with President Clinton when we used the ruse of flying him in on unmarked jets into India and Pakistan back in, you're right, the late 90s.
Did you inform the people on that plane that Clinton wasn't going to fly it, that he was going to get in that smaller jet?
Well, I didn't inform anyone, right? Usually the Secret Service doesn't do that. That's a conversation that's held between the Secret Service and the White House staff. But yeah, it's a safe bet. And I seem to recall that we did, in fact, let everyone know what was going on.
So, Rich, you informed, as Secret Service, you let the White House staff know what's happening, and then it's up to them to inform the people who are on the plane?
That's exactly right. But, something that this situation that unfolded with President Trump recently is such of paramount importance, and the threat was at such a high level. There had to have been some discussion between the director of the Secret Service, the agent in charge of the president's detail, and some senior White House officials about specifically how are we going to deal with the non-Secret Service, non-Air Force personnel, i.e. the press that are on this flight. What are we going to tell them, and when are we going to tell them, if anything? And in this particular case, it doesn't seem like anyone was informed about the tremendously high threat towards that plane.
Well, it seems like it was tremendously high, the fact that he was taken out on a catering truck. We just talked to a Reuters reporter who was almost like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the cost of doing business. Charles and I have been talking about it this morning, and it just seems shocking that these reporters and the White House staff would be in harm's way, and they would have no idea the plane took off.
As the reporter, as Graham just told us, that it's not great to be a decoy.
It speaks volumes about what the White House spokespeople think about the members of the media, specifically those that were on board that plane. If they couldn't even trust them with this type of information about, hey, we're going to bring the president on the front, then we're going to bring him out the back, and we're going to switch planes up because we're worried about the Iranians, who are only 100 miles away from where we are at the moment, shooting down the plane. Right? Given all the leaks, particularly with regard to this plane, what happened with former Secretary Frank Kendall last week, having his clearance revoked when it came to light that he did leak information about the ACM capabilities of the plane, I can see why the White House would be a little hesitant to clue the press in over concerns about a leak.
But they could have just faked a mechanical problem where the plane wouldn't have taken off until Trump landed in the UK, and then he surfaces, and they realize he's not on Air Force One.
And then the transparency happens.
That's right.
And they reveal, but why?
Sure.
Yeah.
But listen, any number of ways this could have played out, and I personally have been in situations where we've played this out, one of which was in India with President Clinton, another one was with President Bush in Iraq. We've had some similar situations occur with the Obamas, right? So this isn't the first time, and this didn't just happen haphazardly. This is part of the Secret Service high threat level contingency planning, right? And I find it difficult to believe that some thought didn't go into, hey, what are we going to tell the members of the traveling press pool? Yet you come back with, we're not going to tell them anything. I don't think that's an answer, and that's not a good way to go about doing business, especially with people you deal with every day.
How high was this threat?
This threat was as high as it can get, right? The Secret Service doesn't make it a point of their daily job to interfere with the president's schedule. So for them to go to the lengths of taking the president off of the plane, putting him into some catering truck, for lack of a better term, right? I guess that's what we're calling it, and put him on an unmarked plane to fly him around and use Air Force One as a decoy. I don't think the threat could get much higher. There had to be some concrete, hard intel about an inbound threat, potentially with some sort of missile or rocket-fired device that had the capability of taking down the plane to take them off of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is. I can't explain to you how big of a deal it is for a government employee. And yeah, I've got a nice title as Secret Service agent. I'm still a government employee, yet I'm going to go to the President of the United States and tell him we've got to take you off of the most secure aircraft in the world, put you in the back of an unarmored catering truck, put you on another plane, in this case it was a 757, unmarked, because I can't assure your safety and the safety of Air Force One once it's airborne. That is a huge decision that had to be made.
Hey, Rich, in that situation that you just laid out, is it reasonable to expect the president, who has the final call, right, to say to his Secret Service detail, what about the people on the plane? Obviously, the first concern is the president's safety. Is it reasonable to expect that a president in that situation might at least ask questions about, hey, what about the folks on that plane?
Oh, not only is it reasonable, but I know that question had to have been asked, right? I've been in the situation before where we've had this exact discussion with different presidents, and that question always comes up. Well, what about the people on the plane? What about the people on the ground? What about the spectators? So you've got to be prepared to handle that. So the conversation that ensued with the president wasn't just with the Secret Service, but certainly with the senior-most White House spokesperson that happened to be on the ground.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
Hey, Rich, cannot thank you enough for jumping on.
Well, certainly appreciate it, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
That is
You got it.
Crazy.
fascinating all the...
Well, also, that threat level was as high as it gets.
Yeah.
Coming up.
There's a comedian who is doing something very timely and seemingly extremely charitable. He goes into Walmart and just buys people's groceries for them. But one of his most recent videos has really surprised people because it showed Walmart banning him.
What I want to do is bring love and laughter.
Be right back.
Welcome back to TMZ Live. There's a comedian who is doing something very timely and seemingly extremely charitable. Damon Darling has been getting quite a reaction on social media with these videos where he goes into Walmart and just buys people's groceries for them. Has a little conversation with them about why they're, what they're buying, who they're buying it for, and he just pays for their groceries. Seems like a great thing. But one of his most recent videos has really surprised people because it showed Walmart banning him, saying that he can no longer come in and do this, which has a lot of people asking questions. Why in the world would Walmart stop a guy from doing something so charitable?
Right.
So joining us right now to talk about this is the comedian himself, Damon Darling. Welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So, from what you knew, why would they boot you when affordability is the biggest issue in America right now?
I can't answer that other than maybe they don't want me recording in their stores.
Well, you've done a lot of these videos now. Did anybody ever say to you, you can't be in here recording, like at any point before this?
I run into employees all the time that say I can't record, but the thing is with my videos, the people involved in them, they want to be involved in them. They're excited to see me. They almost go to Walmart looking for me, hoping to run into me. They're fans, man, and they're having a great time with it. The audience loves it, and everybody's getting free groceries. So
in that video where they mentioned something, is it a trespassing that they're accusing you of, saying that you don't have the right to record there? I mean, I agree with you. Look, your videos are really heartwarming when you see the look on people's faces when they realize. They always seem shocked, like, this can't be real. This guy isn't really just giving me money. What's the catch? And there is no catch. It's a heartwarming thing you're doing. So I get it why your audience is watching the videos going, what's the deal? Why this is all good?
Well, I respect their wishes. I'm at a point where I'm just going to do what they ask me and not come back and not film at their business. I don't want any problems. I don't want anyone boycotting Walmart. I don't want people to stop shopping at Walmart. I don't want to put any more negativity or anything like that out into the world. There's enough of that. My what I want to do is bring love and laughter, and that's what I want to do. So I don't want to add to any kind of drama in the world. So I'll respect their wishes and I'll just figure something else out.
So what we've been hearing, because we've been looking at this today because it was just fascinating us, is that there seemed to be some history between you and Walmart where there was some contentiousness.
About some of your other videos that they felt you were being destructive. And we've seen some of these videos that you've posted where you do like a fake fall and pull down some merchandise. Apparently that didn't sit well with Walmart, and that's, at least from their standpoint, the genesis of them being upset with your videos.
Well, I'm a content creator and I'm a stand-up comedian, so I do bring humor into my videos. My content has completely evolved into wholesome content, to where I'm just making conversation that includes a little bit of lighthearted joking and to provide laughs. And there's messages in it to help break down other barriers that we deal with in society. But the ultimate goal is to put smiles on faces and some money in some people's pockets that could definitely use it at this time. So, I mean, that's all I'm trying to do. Again, I'm going to respect their wishes. I'm not going to go back anymore.
Yeah.
And that I just want to make it clear that I don't want anyone upset at Walmart. I met my wife at Walmart. I used to work for Walmart. I worked loss prevention at Walmart.
Really?
So yeah, I love Walmart. And one day,
okay. So now,
yeah,
so now you're kind of persona non grata at Walmart. Is Target your next target?
No, probably not. I mean, I just don't feel like Target really needs me. They're pretty doing pretty well over there. The clientele, I feel like.
To be fair to Walmart, because we did reach out to them to ask what their view is of why they were banning you. They said, this is the statement: "We deeply care about our associates and customers. Mr. Darling has repeatedly violated our policies through disruptive behavior and trespassing unrelated to any charitable giving." Listen, you could just do it at a different store, like we said. It seems like maybe you could actually patch things up with Walmart and continue doing it there if they had some assurance that you're not going to do destructive things. I think your videos where you're helping people are really cool and a good thing you should continue doing wherever it is you end up doing it.
I agree, man. And all I want to do is create wholesome content, continue to put smiles on people's faces and make people laugh and bring some joy into this dark world. And I mean, if they see, the humor part of it as disruptive, then I mean, it is what it is. But we need some laughter too. So.
Okay, we'll buy that.
All right. And speaking of laughter, I know you have a tour that you're going to be starting next month.
Yeah, this is my 4th national tour. It's called Funny in Real Life. I'll be going all over the country. You can go to DamonDarlingTV.com and get tickets if there's any left. And I hope to see you on the road. And if I see you out in public and you're broke, you won't be broke anymore.
Are you bringing food to the comedy events?
Just bring money. Hand out money at the comedy events, man.
There for a while, I would bring a money gun out and I would spray dollars into the crowd.
So, by the way,
you get roast beef. You get roast beef. You get roast beef. How about that?
I would say your comedy tour must be doing pretty well because you've got cash that you're handing out to folks. So.
Yeah, well, I have really good jokes too. So.
Okay. Really appreciate you coming on.
All right. Thanks, Damon.
Thanks, Damon.
Thank you.
Coming up.
I got me some good recon in the Luigi Mangione case.
Today was last pretrial hearing.
And one of the things that they're raising is the defense wants the media to be able to live stream the trial. I know why.
Be right back.
I got me some good recon in the Luigi Mangione case.
Today was last pretrial hearing.
And one of the things that they're raising is the defense wants the media to be able to live stream the trial. I know why. And these things connect. The defense wants young jurors badly because they think stealth jurors who want to free Luigi because they believe in his cause, that if they can get people under 35 on that jury, they're not going to get a conviction in this case.
But what is the live streaming of jury selection? How does that impact?
Because the jurors aren't going to be sequestered, it looks like. And if they're not sequestered, then people are going to hear all of the chatter online.
There's going to be, I mean, look, there would be a ton of online chatter about this anyway, but you're right, if they're live streaming,
you'll be able to see
the
it.
Case.
And
which doesn't typically happen in New York.
That's right.
Right. So this is...
We don't know what the judge is going to rule on this. Now, the other thing is, this is sort of a be careful what you wish for, that the prosecution plans to introduce Luigi's diary in court to show he planned this killing. The diary also contains a lot about his rage toward corporate greed. And what I'm told the defense is going to do is, you bring the diary in, great. And we're going to get all into the corporate greed thing.
Right.
And we're going to try and influence this jury. So that's a really interesting strategy.
Yeah, I mean, they're leaning into all the attention that Luigi's case has gotten from the outset, where we've seen people hail him up as a folk hero. and they're going to lean into that. It seems to be the best strategy they could use at this point.
Absolutely. There's a lot more here. Go to TMZ.com and you'll be able to see it. But have some good recon in this one.
Coming up.
You could say there's a Nepopocalypse going on in the latest issue of Vogue.
Perfect word.
Because it features not only Kaia Gerber, the obvious, just by looking at her, daughter of Cindy Crawford, but also Homer Gear.
Be right back.
You could say there's a Nepopocalypse going on in the latest issue of Vogue.
Perfect word.
Because it features not only Kaia Gerber, the obvious, just by looking at her, daughter of Cindy Crawford, but also Homer Gear, which is really interesting because Homer and Kaia, they're doing a show together called The Shards.
And what's really interesting is
that
Homer and Kaia have something in common.
Their parents
were married at one time.
Yeah, I mean, they were the most iconic couple back in the 90s. And if you guys remember, they went to Vegas, they got married. They were also on the cover of Vogue. So it's just such a full circle moment.
To be clear, just for anyone who doesn't know, they didn't have kids. And Kaia and Homer are not at all related.
But we also, I don't know that there's any like romantic relationship
No,
there.
they're in the show
People
together.
want them to be a thing, but Kaia does have a boyfriend. She's dating Louis Pullman, unless something happened that we don't know.
By the way,
a Nepo baby.
A Nepo baby.
Yes, exactly.
They've taken over.
So what's interesting, Kaia actually, Vogue asked her about this, the whole Nepo baby label, and she had an interesting response to them. She said, "I've only ever been a Nepo baby, and I've only ever benefited in my career from it. But I also find myself doing it to other Nepo babies, thinking like, okay, show me why you deserve this job."
So what's weird about that statement is she's saying, I have benefited from being a Nepo baby, but you still have to, once they're a Nepo baby, you still have to evaluate their performance.
Yeah.
So it's
She's acknowledging that.
But you should evaluate performance whether somebody's a Nepo baby or not, and there's a whole tier now of Nepo babies.
But I think you're more critical of a Nepo baby because you're like, oh, are they only here because of their dad or their mom?
Yes. Yes.
But by the way, Nepos don't always make it. We've seen some of them on The Voice or certainly American Idol.
Aretha Franklin's granddaughter.
Right, and they don't always get through.
Brian Luttrell's son, he didn't get through.
On the other hand, you got your Michael Douglases that are arguably at least as famous, if not more so,
than their
father, although their father was hugely famous.
Coming up.
You know it's got to be a very special occasion when Oprah's boyfriend finally makes a public appearance.
His name?
What's the guy's name? I can see his
like
face.
5 years ago.
We're kidding, of course. Stedman. Oprah goes to events all the time. Stedman isn't always there.
Be right back.
You know it's got to be a very special occasion when Oprah's boyfriend finally makes a public appearance.
His name?
What's the guy's name? I can see his
like
face.
5 years ago.
We're kidding, of course. Stedman. Yes, there he is. He showed up at right by Oprah's side for a 40th reunion, celebrating the start. It was 40 years ago that Oprah's talk show launched.
How can that be?
You're old.
I know. Oh my
Me
God.
Too. Yeah, 40 years, but they had a reunion in Chicago, and the shocking thing is, when does Stedman? Because Oprah goes to events all the time. Stedman isn't always there.
He does his thing.
So does he get to choose, or does she choose for him? No, you're coming to this one.
The latter.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.